I haven't missed out that part. It saved a lot of time, but it also saved them an awful lot of money. So in a nutshell, what Sonic Brief is it's a speech-to-text engine, a processing engine that sits solely on the Azure platform, right? That's what it does. So, as I mentioned earlier, after that initial engagement with a company called SRS, or Shared Resource Services in Wales, fantastic organisation who look after social care and NHS and lots of other customers in the south of Wales and provide that shared IT technology service. The conversation was, the first part was talking to their social workers. So these guys who work with some of the most vulnerable members of our community, right? So really good people who are going out day in and day out and speaking to some really vulnerable parts of the community. And they were spending an awful lot of time at home doing manual work. So they would come home from what could be a really stressful day, and their first job then was to write up pages and pages of notes from meetings that they've been at, right? So there's duplication of efforts. If your handwriting is anything like mine, and when I come back and I read my notes, because I'm that old, I still use a pen and paper, you look at your notes and you might be writing stuff up twice. So that was a big problem. And obviously as well, of course, there's the human element as well. You take notes all day, you sort of come back and have a look at your notes and think, what did I mean by that, right? I mentioned about the long hours. They were having problems with staff retention from people who didn't want to go out and do this job all day and then come home and spend hours and hours sat in front of their computer in their own time as well. So they were losing some really clever staff. One of the key elements was around network coverage. So again, we're talking about South Wales. So anyone who's ever been to South Wales, certainly areas like the Rhondda Valley, will know it's really a rural community. Or some of it is at least. Now, some of these social workers, when they were going out, they might not get any Wi-Fi connectivity or any 3G, 4G, 5G connectivity all day. So whatever solution was deployed, it had to work offline because otherwise it was just completely useless to them. The other thing as well was about that kind of that service user experience. So that first part that these social care workers are going to use, it just has to work. If we give them something that's overly complex, it's just too clunky, it's just going to become shelfware. They won't use it, they won't see any value in it, and it will just fall off a cliff. And the final thing was around technical knowledge. So when we're talking to some of these organisations, some of them are very tech savvy, some of them just weren't. And the problem that they raised was Sonic Brief is a fantastic piece of equipment. It works really well. It's a great solution, but there's no front end. So we have to manually upload everything we want to do. And we don't know how to install it on Azure. We don't know how to get it set up. We don't have a landing zone. And what if there's a problem? Who's going to support it? Because anyone who knows anything about the global black belt community, they're very clever people, but they come and do a thing, they create it, there's a big fanfare, and then they put it down and they go over onto the next thing. And then there's big questions about, well, what about this? We want to use it. And if I give this to all my members of staff and they really like it, there's a real risk that this thing works. And then all of a sudden there's a problem with it one day. And it's like, if anyone's got a Copilot license, if that goes off, it's like losing your left arm, right? So there was a big problem with that. So that was where we came in. So, as I mentioned previously, some of those early adopters came back with the feedback. And we identified really the way we're going to help people is to kind of look at a kind of T-shirt sizes approach to customers' Azure maturity. So there's some customers out there who don't have any Azure footprints whatsoever, don't have any Azure in-house knowledge. So if we were to say to them, go to GitHub, download the Solution Accelerator, install it on your landing zone. Your landing zone's all CAF aligned and all secure, right? They would have no idea what we're talking about. There are other users out there who might have a landing zone. It might need some remediation. It might be CAF aligned, but they don't really have the in-house skills, but they dabble on Azure a little bit. And there's obviously some organisations who could just take the Sonic Brief Accelerator from GitHub themselves, download it, install it, get it all set up because they're fully mature on Azure. So we're looking at those three T-shirt sizes. And as I mentioned, that ongoing support element. So we do a thing called Azure Hours Bank, which is nothing clever, but really helpful for our customers. It's as simple as a pool of time that customers can buy, where they can log a ticket and say, I need some help with this, I need some help with that. And where it really helps with public sector, anyone who works in public sector knows that procurement is such a laugh in public sector, right? It's great fun. You want to do a thing, it takes 6 months to get something lined up. With Azure Hours Bank, once it's lined up, you log a ticket, you get your assistance straight away. I've mentioned the network coverage as well. So again, this was a real key part of that, and I'll show you a little bit more when I show the application shortly. One of the things that was added after initial feedback with some of these test users was around security. So obviously, again, the use case we're talking about here is social care. So some of these really vulnerable people in the community, the last thing anyone wants is this data to leak out or have a problem or be that guy that caused that issue. So we managed to layer in Enter ID as well. So it's for those who use Azure and use Enter, it's a known quantity. So we can just incorporate that into the application, and we have done. Now the final thing is the elephant in the room. You're all probably sitting out there thinking, well, I can think of six solutions that do something similar to that straight away, maybe more, maybe 10. You're right, there are lots of solutions out there that do them. There's two key differences though. So I keep coming back to the network connectivity part. Copilot is great, it's fantastic, it works really well. If you give Copilot to somebody who doesn't know how to use Copilot, they might think it's not very good because they don't know how to use it properly. But the key thing is, not everyone has a Copilot license, and it needs connectivity. Without those two things, it's just a piece of software that no one will use. Not software, you know what I mean, a license that no one's going to use. So that network coverage, that network security part is pretty key. And the second thing is, anyone who works in public sector will know there are other applications out there, services out there. I'm not going to mention them, but they've got the word notes in them, and they cost an absolute fortune. So in our initial tests with this, the users were telling us that they were using other applications. It was costing them about £5 to £7 an hour per user to use that solution. In these first tests, Sonic Brief app using the Sonic Brief engine is costing about 20 to 27 pence an hour. So you can see straight away the cost difference there is absolutely fantastic. So I'll move on to the next slide. So I've mentioned social care quite a few times because it's the fantastic people at SRS and Welsh Social Services who've helped us land this. But straight away you can probably think of lots of other use cases where this would work. I'm not going to go through all these, but we were talking earlier. So anyone who doesn't enjoy writing stuff down, I've never met a police officer or a fireman that says he can't wait to get back to the station or wherever and write all this stuff down. They want to be out putting fires out or feeling collars, so they want to be writing notes up. But so there's a whole raft of things which we're going to be looking to implement to other areas as well. So this is the bit where I'm going to skip over very quickly because this is the technical stuff which I don't really understand. So this was the initial diagram that was done by the Global Black Belt when he landed Sonic Brief. Now the bit on here which really resonates to me is this part here. So end user uploads recordings via transcript, view report. Straight away, for some end users, that's going to blow their mind. Because if you say, you've got to go and upload a transcript somewhere, they haven't got a clue how to do that, right? So straight away, it's fallen over here. Again, as I've mentioned, people might not have the landing zone to land all this stuff on or the wherewithal to build this solution. And what if it goes wrong? So there's obviously some flaws in that logic. Now, I'm not going to go through all the different components, although one of my technical guys has written down loads of stuff about Azure static web apps and Azure app service and blob storage and all that kind of good stuff. I'll share the link again. Have a look at the GitHub repository. Make your own mind up because you guys are technical people and I'm not. But as you can see, they're well-known Azure components that puts this whole solution together. So I'm going to skip over that because it's pretty much the same. So as you can see, this is fairly similar to the initial Global Black Belt diagram, but this is where Servant's mobile application came in. When we were talking to some of these first councils and these early users, they were saying they've been in conversations with some GSIs for like 6 months about building this application and building out this requirement. We built the application in a week in our app and dev test team. And we built that in a week, and then within a week and a half, we then enabled Enter ID as well, and we got proper users out there testing it. It's had some tweaks, but when you see the console on the main screen, you'll see it's very simple, and it's very simple by design. So, as I say, very simple by design because a complex app would just sit there and gather dust. As you can see by the features that are enabled on there, we're not talking about reinventing the wheel here for any of this kind of stuff. Anyone who's got an iPhone or an Android phone, you've got similar apps, right? So that familiarity, that similar feel is what we were going for. Obviously, all the magic happens in the background with the transcribing and all that kind of stuff, but we wanted to make it look and feel like applications that people use all the time. So, again, fully developed by Servant with assistance by the guys at SRS. The main part of this was how quick and simple it can transcribe the audio. Now I'll show the demo in a second. I'm going to skip over that one because we've talked about that quite a lot. Now we are next week presenting with Microsoft shoulder to shoulder lots of webinars about this. So this will change a lot. There's no audio on this demo because I got one of our app dev team to build this demo for me very quickly before I was coming here. So unfortunately it's going to be my Brummie accent talking to you again about this. But I'm just going to play it and then just show you just how simple it is. So as you can see, very familiar to the kind of iPhone apps that you've got. And it's very straightforward and offers customization options. So you can see here where we're putting in case IDs. Obviously those can hook into back office systems. So it will create a case ID for you or whatever you want. A new record number. Obviously these drop downs can all be changed by hooking into back office systems. And then once you've populated your details, you press the one button that you can press and this thing starts sitting there recording. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention on this, which I've glossed over, is from the social care element, again, one of the things I didn't know, because I don't do that for a living, is that if I'm sitting down talking to you and we're having this conversation and I'm sat there and I'm scribbling notes down, I'm not making eye contact with you and I'm missing out on all that non-verbal communication, all that really important stuff. And again, some of the things that people said to us, it may be you're in a house where they're in an abusive relationship and the person you're speaking to stops talking because someone else walks in. If you're sat there scribbling stuff down, you're missing all this information, right? You're not seeing all that. So again, this is as simple as you press the button, sit there, record, and then we have a one-to-one conversation, right? So that was a really key part for that. And they were saying that they were missing things when they were talking to people, because these are really clever people, right? Really skilled people who care about their communities. So we want them making that eye contact and having those conversations. So again, from now you can see it's as simple as we recorded, we paused it again. Again, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Someone's walked in the room, someone needs to go for a bathroom break. We pause the recording and then you can just pick it up again straight away. So it's all, pretty straightforward. The next part you'll see is, so that recording is completed and this is where it's going to start doing some of the clever stuff. So you'll see the dashboard shortly when that comes up. So, this is, as you can see now, this is just playback. So you can play back and listen to that recording if you want to. If you're happy with it, you want to do it again, you can play it back. So this is now where you can see, this one's uploaded, or uploading. That one's failed, complete processing. So green with a green cloud means transcribed, uploaded, happy days, that one's done. As you can see, there's work to do for that one. So for our members of staff who are out in the community who've got no connectivity, they're all going to be read until they get back home or back to the office and then they can upload them. But it's as simple as that, very clean, simple dashboard showing the process of that. Again, if you want to delete it, simply pressing the delete button. But again, if you're sat somewhere, like if you go to McDonald's to grab a coffee and you want to listen to this, you can't listen to it, you can just have a look at the transcript, right? Just have a read through the transcript and have a look, make sure that's captured everything that you want it to capture. So again, simple by design. And you'll see that some of these now have gone from complete. We can just retry the upload once we get connectivity. Again, it's falling off a log, simple stuff, but it just had to be because otherwise it just wouldn't work. And as you can see, that one's gone from incomplete to complete. It's now uploaded. So I shall skip forward one. Any questions so far on that? It's pretty sort of, yes.
Question, not technical.
Oh, thank God. Thank you.
Given it's been used in a social care setting,
Yes.
what point does it become a medical device and need to go through medical device regulation?
So, and there's something I haven't mentioned, which I'm going to mention on the next slide. Let me tell that first and then come back to that. So, the other thing as well, which we haven't done, is we haven't located any of this data on our cloud, on anyone else's cloud. This would sit on your tenant. So, if you were a user of this device, this application and this accelerator, we would locate it on your Azure tenant, right? So to answer your question then, whatever you think is right. So if you think that device needs to be classed as a medical device, then obviously there's a conversation to have then to say that's my phone. You're not making, you're not putting a big MDM footprint on this and having that. But it's all, we pass all of that shared responsibility for data protection, all that kind of stuff onto the users. We're not managing it. It's not sitting in our infrastructure. If you want to use this, you have to have an Azure footprint, you have to have an Azure landing zone, it has to be secured, it has to be set up, but ultimately, again, that great Microsoft phrase, shared responsibility model, it's that shared responsibility between you and Microsoft, it's not ours. And that's the same for the devices. Does Does that kind of answer it? Because you obviously know a lot more about medical devices than I do. I can tell that. But
yeah, there's been a lot in the NHS particularly. There's been a lot of press around the ambient voice tech.
Yeah.
Okay, and the fact that they've gone, like MHRA have gone, that this is a medical device, it needs to go through, I think it's class 1 medical device. So I was just wondering if that's been.
So for us, no, because we create the app, we help you build your landing zone, we deploy Sonic Brief, we will help you support it, what you do with it, how you use it. If you then wanted to go and open every door on your Azure infrastructure and make it completely unsecure, we've distanced ourselves from that deliberately because we're not experts in that. We'll provide you the app, how you use it's down to you. Does that answer your question? I'm not trying to sound evasive, that was a deliberate thing. Right, okay. So again, there's some different ways we can deploy it. We can deploy it via scripts. You can just go to GitHub and install it yourself. We can do Terraform, manual deployment. Again, it depends on that customer's maturity and what kind of assistance they would need to land it. So where we come in, so as I say, we're long-standing Microsoft partners, so we can unlock Microsoft funding for this. So for our customers we're already speaking to, we have, and are continuing to unlock Microsoft funding to get it either completely paid for or partially paid for, so it doesn't cost them any money. Because as we all know, for Microsoft, ACR is king. So if you don't have an Azure landing zone or Azure presence, now you have to have one. And this thing will, although this by itself won't create a massive amount of ACR because it's pretty small with a bit of blob storage. The hope from Microsoft is, well, if they've got an Azure tenant and they're using it for that, then we can have a conversation with them about, well, what else do you want to put on that? So that's our gift to give, have that conversation with Microsoft to unlock that funding with our users and our customers. I've mentioned the maturity, how it's tailored to maturity, and I've mentioned the support options again. Very simple option from us. So I've got to say a couple of thank yous because I've mentioned these people in passing, but whilst we've created the application ourselves and we will deploy it and support it, folks at SRS, so there's a guy called Simon Harris who leads up SRS. He's fantastic. He really helped us with that initial use case and testing. Mustafa as well, the global black belt. And then there's many members of the Microsoft team, Drew, Thomas, Tina, Owen, Ross, too many to mention, and lots of councils who are out there using it who were doing kind of beta testing for us on this to make this possible. So you've probably got a million technical questions, and like I say, we've got our app dev team who can answer them. So this thing was written in a Maui Blazor hybrid. I have no idea what that means, but it sounds brilliant, right? You guys will probably know what that means. So if you've got a million technical questions you want to ask our guys, if you've got questions about security, if you've got questions about anything, then there's some details up there which I hope you think we can share. You can drop us an email, we can have a conversation with you. If you think it might be something that you might be able to use in your organisation yourself, happy to have that conversation. The main thing is, what we're not doing is, I'm going to say, there's a Magic Notes, is the big one that LRGs use. That's the one that costs £5 to £6 per user, per hour. What we're not going to do, what we're not doing is creating Magic Notes 2.0. We're not going to say ours is 2 pence cheaper an hour. We're not doing that at all. Where the value will come into serve, being completely honest, is we'll unlock the Microsoft funding. We'll help you land this thing on your Azure environment. We'll help you support the thing. But then once you've got it, it's over to you. It's yours. We'll help you support it. Then if you want tweaks making to it, if you think it'd be great, if it hooked into my back office systems and I want that text that then goes and creates a form or a workflow, absolutely we can help you with that. But for some of our customers who already have, they'll just go and download the accelerator themselves and they might just say, okay, let's have a conversation, we just want the application. It's fine. We're not looking here to create Magic Notes 2.0. We're trying to keep the costs low, but we're generating potentially new users on the Azure platform, which Microsoft like, so they will help us with funding. Are there any other questions? Yes, my friend.
So, I mean, obviously, as with most of the public sector, but particularly social care,
yes,
safeguarding is a massive thing.
Of course.
What kind of protections or auditing is in place to protect not only the people who work there, but the people that they're looking after as well?
So, auditing from what? Do you mean?
So, I mean, for example, does it track where the interview was taken? Does it track how long the pauses were? Stuff like that. So
no, it doesn't do any kind of geolocation, that kind of stuff. It just will transcribe the order. Now, obviously, and you're right to mention it. You're absolutely right to mention it. It opens up a million conversations about data security and all that kind of stuff. It absolutely does. But again, we've distanced ourselves from that to say to people, we'll help you with that kind of stuff, with your kind of auditing and your compliance, we'll help you with that. But what we're not doing is saying, we're building an application which is NHS compliant and we hold all the right accreditations and it's on our secure tenant to work at. We're not doing that. We're not experts in that. We're experts in Azure, we're experts in building applications, but we will work with our customers to make tweaks, to make any modifications they've got to do, but what we're not doing is creating a big brother that's going to spy on people. So we may, to your example, we may speak to a particular customer and say, I like all of that, but I want just off the top of my head, because we want the part off where you can play back the function. We don't want that anymore. Well, we can get rid of that. Mm-hmm. We want to add this part in. Okay, we can add that part in. So it's eminently tweakable and customizable, but we deliberately are not getting involved in any of those kind of compliance things, because otherwise what would happen is, and I mentioned this earlier, there are already lots of apps out there doing this kind of stuff. We would sit around talking about this for 3 years, and then by that time someone would invent something that costs 4p. So we'd rather just get the application out there, get people using it, work with our Microsoft partners and drive ACR, and make any changes that they need. That sounds like a really evasive, salesy answer, but it's deliberate. It's deliberate because we are not experts in that field, okay? Cool. Is that right?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any more? Perfect. Thank you for going easy on me. I do appreciate it. I don't know if you've smashed my car up in the car park. I'm waiting for that when I get back, but yeah, it'd be a nice trip. I really appreciate your time and thank you for letting me talk at you for a while. Thank you.